Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to USTA Florida's Here to Serve podcast. My name is Laura Bowen, and I'm the Executive Director at USTA Florida. Today is February 1st, and that marks the start of Black History Month. I am very excited today to have as my guest Charlene Farrington, who is the Executive Director for the Spady Cultural Heritage Museum, which is down in Delray Beach, Florida. Charlene, thank you for joining me today. It's great to have you on the podcast.
I am very honored to be here.
All right, so you're new to our podcast, and I would love for you to tell our audience a little bit about yourself and then maybe how you first got involved with the Spady Museum.
Okay, so I am the daughter of the founder of the Spady Museum. My mother began this project in 1996, and I was at that time working at a local newspaper, watching her as she established this Black History Museum. I, growing up here in Palm Beach County, did not realize there was so much rich Black history here in Florida, much less Beach County. So when her project got off the ground and was ready to start hiring staff, I applied because I wanted to work in a space where there was so much information to learn. And then eventually, as I grew through the ranks within the organization and the director position became available and was offered to me, I promised myself, as I accepted the position, that I would not let any other school children matriculate through school in Palm Beach County without knowing, at least knowing that Black history exists. They may not know all of it, but they know it's here and they know where to come find it when they're interested.
I love that. And of course, we're going to get to why that's so important based on the museum itself and, who it's named after, of course. So can you share with us a little more about Solomon David Spady and how the museum came to be created and particularly named for him?
Well, Solomon Spady was an educator who was born in Townsend, Virginia. In 1887. He got his college degree and he joined a farming organization a national organization called New Farmers of America, which is where he met his mentor, George Washington Carver. During this time, the South Florida communities are being established. People are coming from other parts of the country to live in what we now consider South Florida. And we're talking specifically about the East Coast of South Florida. One of the Black citizens who migrated to Delray Beach realized that the school for colored children, because of course the South was still segregated, had closed and it would reopen as long as a teacher was found. So he started writing letters to the newly opening HBCUs in the South. And one of those letters ended up at Tuskegee Institute, where George Washington Carver was. Now, Mr. Carver, knowing that Mr. Spady was looking for a permanent teaching position, passed that letter on to Spady. And that's what prompted Mr. Spady to come to what we now call Delray Beach and become the teacher and very quickly the principal of the colored school here in Delray. That he arrived in 1922. And he built the home that we have now turned into the Spady Museum in 1926. And that's where he and his wife lived while they were here. They were both teachers.
Okay. Excellent. So obviously that's why education is so important to the mission and purpose of the Spady Museum.
Absolutely. We are continuing Mr. Spady's legacy and so many others. Our world. Education was one of the most important things, especially for people who were emerging from a period of time where they had been cut off education for so long. They knew their whole lives how important education is and were eager is not a strong enough word to reestablish education for themselves and for their children. And we're going to continue that legacy because we too realize how important that is.
And you mentioned the rich history that we have here in Florida, in the Black community, and of course, Mary McLeod Bethune comes to mind with education and the importance of that. So, when you have these figures that dedicated their life to educating others and giving that gift, as we celebrate Black History Month here in Florida, how important is it for all Floridians? I'm from Florida. I was born in Polk County. How important is it for us to learn about Black history in our state?
It's as important for people of all cultures to learn about other cultures that they live with. It's just as important as it is for knowing your own culture. Your culture describes for you who your family is and where you fit into this world. That's what your culture does. Other people's culture describes that same information for you, so that when you see them and you interact with them, you have you may not have a complete understanding, but you have some understanding of where their reactions, responses, thoughts are going to be coming from. And with knowledge comes respect. And respect is the one thing that keeps our culture from descending into chaos. We have to respect one another in our places. And if you can't respect a person, then you will not protect or even consider that person. And for Black people in America, that has been the norm for us for so many years, that now that we are hopefully emerging out the other side of that, it's critical for us to not only teach our own children what their history is, but teach everyone in South Florida what our history is. So you have a better understanding of who we are and why we are who we are, because that's not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a key point. There is no such thing as a melting pot. A person's culture will stay with them throughout their lives, and they're not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better to know where they're coming from so that you can respond appropriately and you can live in a society that's a peaceful society.
That's so well said. Um, I'm reminded, I was reading a book by Malcolm Gladwell called Talking to Strangers. And that was one of the things that he says in that book that's so important, is that learning about people, talking to people, understanding people's experiences allows you to respect and understand things through a different lens than your own and what you've had as your own experiences.
Exactly. And denying someone else's experiences don't make them go away. It says more about the person who's doing the denying than it does about the person that they are trying to cancel. In today,
Mm-hmm.
we call it cancel culture,
Mm-hmm.
right? So denying history is not going to get you anywhere. It's just going to set you further back on the journey.
So true. So let's talk about some of the ways that maybe the Spady Museum will be celebrating Black History Month, because we happen to have a big tennis event in Delray Beach. You probably know that, and it's coming up in the month of February. So I would love to know what's going on at the Spady Museum, so that maybe some of our tennis fans could come and visit and participate in what you all have going on this month.
Okay, and so I would like to start by saying tennis goes back all the way back in Black history in Delray to day one. I mean, our residents brought tennis with them when they came and played tennis all the time. And I particularly love tennis to watch. I
Yay!
played in high school, but I love watching tennis. So tennis is part of our historical foundation. But in addition to that, the Spady Museum will be hosting several events during Black History Month, starting with one of our more important collaborations. We collaborate with the Delray Beach Community Redevelopment Agency and the Arts Garage in Delray Beach, which is a presenting music venue,
Okay.
and collaborate on a program called Author Speak. the three directors of those agencies work together all the time in our individual missions. And over the course of time, just like happens all the time, we started talking about things that we can do to be, in fact, impactful in our community, and things that we recognize that our community needs and would appreciate. And bringing authors, Black authors who write about the Black experience in America is one of those things that we felt that our community would really benefit from, but more importantly, learn from. This is one of those ways that we get to know each other so that we can build a better understanding. So we bring three Black authors to the Arts Garage, one in February, one in April, and one in June. The first one will arrive February 23rd. Her name is Dr. Jasmine Cobb, and she's going to talk about the art and texture of Black hair.
Okay.
So hair for many African Americans is an important topic because it is one of the ways that America identifies race and places people in certain racial categories. Now, of course, we realize race is a construct and doesn't really mean anything, but it is so ubiquitous in our country that hair is one of those topics that it is important for people of other cultures to understand. Because for so long, Black people were taught to hate their hair. They were taught their hair is wrong. Hair of people of other cultures is right. And then when we began to come out of that brainwashed period of time, we began to realize how right our hair is. And then we had to turn around and convince others that our hair is right. So it's we've always had to justify our existence.
Yeah.
But hair is one of those more visible aspects of a culture that is important to us. And so we're going to have an author come in and we're going to get into that conversation.
That's exciting. I know there's been some TV shows about that as well. And like you said, there's really been a movement in the last few years. And I love to see that, that we're all unique and different. And, just because my hair is straight doesn't make it good.
Right. Right. It doesn't make it bad either. We need to stop putting a value to to culture, and especially to individual features and characteristics. The other thing we're going to do in February is a youth art cultural awareness festival. This is our second year partnering to host this event. And this is going to be on February 17th. And what it is a festival for youth across Palm Beach County to display their art.
Oh, neat.
Now, the two areas of art that we will be displaying is performance art and visual art. And the artwork will be juried, prizes will be awarded, but we will also be showcasing is not entrepreneurship. So we're going to have a section of this festival where youth who are engaged in a business activity will be able to share their business with audiences. Last year, this was a hugely successful event, and we are looking forward to even more people coming out to support the youth of Palm Beach County in their business and artistic endeavors.
Excellent. That sounds exciting. Is that at the Spady Museum?
At the Spady Museum on the grounds. So we fill backyard, front yard, parking lot with children and what they create. And it's so exciting because our children are stellar in terms of their creativity. And it oftentimes it blows us adults away what our children come up with.
It's so true. Well, I'm going to be down there on the 17th, so I would love to wander around and check it out and see what these young minds are up to these
We
days.
would love to have it's open to the public. This is a free event. Both of these, the authors speak and the
Mhm.
art are free events. And then the third thing that we are working on, as you can tell, collaboration is key for us. Um, we're collaborating with multiple Black history organizations in the Tri-County area to host a Black Cultural Expo. And this is going to be February 11th at the Old Dillard Museum in Pompano Beach.
Okay.
What we are doing, what we cultural organizations realize is as hard as we work and as much as we talk, there are still some people in South Florida who don't know we're here or what
Mhm.
we do, right? Of course, it's always going to be like that. People are coming and going, and
Mhm.
you know, so we want to get together and showcase and highlight some of the Black history and Black cultural organizations around the Tri-County area and talk about what it is we do in the community. So that's February 11th.
Amazing. And so I will not be down there then, but we're going to see if we can find a link to that and we'll put that on this podcast as well. That way, anybody in that area could go to the Old Dillard Museum and check out that
Okay.
exhibit.
And
Awesome.
then we, every last Tuesday of the month, we host an event at the Spady Museum called Sip and See at Spady. What we have found is visitors who come to visit the museum, once the tour is over, they say to us, what else can we do?
Mhm.
So we put this event together so that we could pick a topic in Black history and drill down a little bit further. Just get down into more of the history and the learning experience of that particular topic. So February 28th, we will be hosting a Sip and See at the Spady. That's 6 to 8 p.m. Um, at the Spady Museum.
Do you know the topic yet?
I have three.
Oh,
And
you're trying to choose.
and then we will post it.
Okay, exciting. I can't wait to see which one it is.
And those frequencies they vary in terms of what we do. There's social events, right?
Mhm.
But sometimes we view a documentary, sometimes we have a dynamic speaker, sometimes we have a panel discussion, sometimes we'll have a singer.
Oh,
It
wow.
really varies. So yes, I'm juggling three. And there
Yeah.
is so much to talk about and to choose from
Mhm.
that I don't think we will ever run out.
No. But that's great. It's something different every time, so it gets you excited to go every month. So I will make sure I put a reminder on my calendar too if I'm ever down there on the last Tuesday of the month to check out what the sip and see topic is.
Yes. And as soon as we decide on it, it will be posted like everything else on our website.
Perfect. And we will link to the Spady Museum website in this podcast. So don't worry, you'll be able to click the link and see all the things that are going on at the Spady Museum bookmark it so that you can follow along. So, my last question, which you kind of touched on a little bit earlier, but would love to hear what other recommendations you might have for our listeners who are eager to learn more about Black history and African American heritage here in the state of Florida.
Well, I want to tell you something. We are making up for lost time. There is a statewide network of Black history museums, cultural centers, historic sites, beaches, burial grounds. Um, there is a statewide network of us that work together on a lot of projects. It is called the Florida African American Heritage Preservation Network. And for the listeners, if you go to a website called FAAHPN, that's the acronym,
Mhm.
.com, you will find all of us Black history sites around the state of Florida. And not only that, but you will find an app that you can download.
Oh,
And what that app will do is as you travel across the state, you can put in your current location and it will tell you what Black history entity is in your area, which is a jewel for me because when I grow up, what I want to do is travel the state and visit every single site.
that's amazing. And I love that. Thank you for sharing that resource. We will also drop a link in the podcast to that as well. And of course, I know that Florida has a Black Heritage Trail, and you can find that too, which I'm sure is also linked on this resource. So I've often looked at that when I'm in different locations in the state, just to see, hey, is there a stop on the trail that I can go and look at? So so there's just so much here in the state of Florida. It's like you said, it's really wonderful to have all of these resources, and much thanks to you and to the others that are caretakers of these resources so that we can learn and appreciate and enjoy them.
Thank you.
So that is my last question. Charlene, it's been such a pleasure. I hope that I get to see you in person on the 17th. But just thank you so much for taking the time today to join the podcast and share all of your insights and information with us. It's really been a pleasure.
It has been my pleasure as well, and I look forward to seeing you.
Excellent. For those of you who are listening to the audio only version of this podcast, be sure to check out USTA Florida's YouTube page where you can see the full video version. And of course, we'll post links to these resources that Charlene shared. And you can find all episodes of the Here to Serve podcast, including upcoming and topics and dates, at USTAFlorida.com/here to serve. And you might want to check out our Amplify page during the month of February as we turn a spotlight on all of the organizations and people in Florida who are celebrating Black History Month. This is just the beginning, and we can't wait to hear more stories and learn more together throughout the month of February. Thanks for tuning in, and have a wonderful rest of the day.